Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
Okay, hi no one because fuck. Basically, we got a little video to make about something that happened, and I guess we're gonna give you a little bit of background on it before we start. But essentially, would you like to tell?
Oh,
tell
dude!
them,
All right, here's the deal. Something that happened. It's not just something. It's something mystifying in a way, and I don't really mean that as if
relatively devastating, actually, to my psyche whenever.
Yeah, it's not like mystifying, like you get on the top of a mountain, you look over, and all of the woods and the trees and the animals and the happy amazingness, and you're like, oh god, this is incredible. Mystifying is in like
it was like walking downtown and going down an alleyway and just finding a pile of dead dogs.
Yeah, and there's like a tweaker, and he's like dry humping one of them on the face. And he's like all nasty and shit. He has like barnacles on his body.
Oh, this has already took a turn.
Who cares? Whatever. All right. So when it comes down to it, I find, and Jake does as well, I find it rather entertaining to read up and observe the countless stupid acts of the average person. I almost would consider them eligible for a zoo, because they're pretty much just as interesting to observe. So, of course, this happened, and I was on Facebook, and I was just, I get on and check Facebook every once in a while, and I have all kinds of friends, and some of them share videos here and there, and AJ, a friend of mine that I don't really talk to him anymore, but either way, he shared a picture of this older, white, bald guy going to the Rutherford County Board of Education and filming himself doing so while he's in the building and trying to talk to an attorney, and then throwing a big fit about Islam being taught in middle school. So, religion being my favorite thing to talk about, it is honestly, oh, that's not good for the recording. But who cares? It is honestly my favorite thing to discuss with people. And of course, this is religious based, and I actually defend the idea of religion being taught in school because I think it's reasonable. The issue, though, is he goes in the building with this claim that he's built up and all this non-existent evidence that he thinks exists. And he goes and says, oh, it's, illegal. They're doing something illegal by teaching religion in school. And I find that quite fascinating because he's practically the embodiment of the far, far right-wing, Trump supporter, Christian, traditionalist. He's pretty much the embodiment of that in particular. So this is the reason why I didn't even know when AJ shared the video that it was his dad, because I thought it was just one of those videos that circulate through social media of someone doing something dumb every once in a while. But that's what I thought it was. And then I looked at it and I commented. I was like, all right, this guy's an idiot. That's what really led towards the controversy.
And disclaimer, it wasn't to be douchey or malicious in any way. It was just, hey, this guy's saying some dumb fucking shit.
And when it boils down to it, I try my best to, because I enjoy having conversations with people about anything controversial, and I like trying to get to some kind of truth or some middle ground. But it turned out that when you start talking to a specific kind of people, doing this is impossible. And no matter how much you try to show them that their views are wrong and that they're completely mistaken entirely and they're professing lies, basically, they don't care. And it's just absurd to me about how people can hold beliefs in which are so completely unfounded entirely as far as evidence goes, and profess them to be true, and it's silly. So I would expect more of that of a supposed adult, but of course.
Yep. So, sorry. Basically, what we're going to be doing is I don't know for sure if we're providing you with the videos themselves, but we're going to be tackling each quote unquote, using the term very lightly, claim that this so-called gentleman, Tommy, I believe was his name. Yep, Tommy had made, and we're going to be showing you exactly why these claims don't make any sense.
Right. So,
and we're gonna see what you guys think.
For the overview, walks into the building. Right. When he walks into the building, he assumes that he makes the claim that under state Tennessee guidelines, he has every right to record the attorney during conversation. Now, this is something is not something I oppose too heavily because, I mean, I would say that it'd be reasonable to record a conversation with somebody, but the problem is he doesn't have any basis to do so. Like, there is nothing. If you had, like, recording a conversation of, I don't know, some cop talking about how he's gonna, I don't know, fucking go into a nursery and eat babies or some shit, and you want to sue him for that, then recording the conversation might be reasonable because you have a case. But this guy has nothing, and he's so convinced that he has a case in which he can sue, and so he wants to record them. So that's fine. Now, I'm not 100% sure if you can do that. I think that on specific places they can say whether or not you are allowed to record in those buildings, and they can refuse to speak to you in that as far as possible. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe she was just a cunt. I don't know. Who cares? Whether or not she's a cunt is irrelevant. But he goes in and he says that he knows for a fact he can do this and do that, and he's going to sue them because she refused to talk to him. Now, I think I really know why she refused to talk to him. I think he was a overwhelmingly, willfully ignorant, belligerent asshole to the point where I wouldn't want to talk to him. I mean, if we're really talking about, like, speaking to him personally, I would love to have, like, a one-on-one conversation with him just to see how much he doesn't know about stuff. But and the Facebook isn't enough. I would like to have, like, a formal debate in front of 50,000 people with this guy. But
on national TV.
And just sponsored by Donald Trump, or has a bunch of strippers in the back. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me. But something as serious as that, because this guy, I'm so confident that he has no foundation or understanding of anything that he talks about. Now, that is an assumption, but I could say that it's founded reasonably considering how he conducted himself when talking to us about this controversial topic. So, if you're unaware, in Tennessee, there's a problem with there are certain people of the really religious part of the right wing where they oppose anything relating to Islam because of things like ISIS and 9/11, and they don't understand it, they don't care to, so they don't want anything to do with it. So when they find out that their kids on the Tennessee State Social Studies curriculum are being taught that through I think 1 year of middle school and then the early high school or later on through high school, that they're being taught about the foundational concepts of other religions. Not just other religions, it's only Islam.
Yes, I believe the curriculum has something to do with a thing called comparative religious studies, where you compare the ideology and the belief systems of different religions and how they impacted our nation's history and basically how our culture was shaped via religion, such as, the Crusades and everything.
Yeah, there's a religion, when it boils down to it, as much as I think it's atrocious and I can't stand it. When it boils down to it, religion has had a very huge impact and influence throughout all of, or at least the majority of civilizations. It has provoked a multitude of different kinds of wars that are relevant even to this day as far as history goes. The foundation of civilizations, practices, just
architecture,
right?
Even.
Just and it's fascinating. So teaching social studies in particular involving history, you would be basically sectioning out an entire chunk of human history, just civilizational history, if you just took out anything involving any kind of religion.
And it doesn't make fucking sense to try to teach children about how said religions impacted our society if they know nothing about that religion.
Right, you need to explain to them why they believe what they believe and what causes them, or what causes the provocation to the degree of whatever it is that might be happening, like any kind of war. So usually beliefs are the main reason for them, and if you don't understand them, then you're a 9-year-old going into a calculus class. So I mean, you're screwed. So when it boils down to it, it's not religion. Because that's kind of a lie, well, at least from what I'm reading, as far as these people, because he's not the first one. He didn't come up with this idea of being opposed towards Islam being taught in school. There's a whole community of religious Christian Republicans against the idea of religion, or not religion, but anything aside from Christianity being taught in school. They don't say that, but that's what they fucking mean, and I know it. Because it's only towards Islam, and they say, oh, well, if they teach Islam, indoctrination will happen, and then they'll start fucking crucifying and decapitating Christian... No, whatever. That's what they believe. They believe that they're going to become Muslims or something, and they're going to be indoctrinated. But because when it boils down to it, they want to leave the indoctrination to them. They don't want any other form of indoctrination to happen. That's their job.
Yep. So Tommy decides to go off and start. I think they were having a conversation with us in the comments of the video.
Conversation.
And nothing they were saying made any sense to actually support their arguments or claims.
The psychology of these people in particular, and I say people lightly because they don't really have any level of individuality. They're just kind of, a reiteration of what is socially acceptable, especially in the South. I mean,
it's basically if you gave a chimpanzee a laptop and let it have access to Facebook.
Right. Basically, it seems to be what it is. But that's pretty much the deal when it comes to him. And I always conduct myself respectfully in the sense. And considering that he's quite a bit older than Jake and I find it disturbing that he conducted himself on such a level of immaturity. And
especially since during the little argument, he seemed to hold the fact that he was older than us quite heavily.
Right, because that's the issue is that, and this is something, somewhat of a bias and a misconception when it comes to people, their experiences, and their intellectual capability. They assume that, oh, you've been on the earth longer, so therefore you obviously have more knowledge than anybody else who hasn't been on the earth as long, which is just completely false. So, especially when people like this don't have the care or even the consideration to actually obtain proper knowledge. So that's the problem here. And he demonstrated that, like, he's basically the epitome of what I'm referring to. And so when it boils down to it, that he assumed that because he was a certain age, he automatically had a advantage. And as much as I would say the majority of the time, if you get an average 35-year-old and an average, I don't know, I was 18 then, so an 18-year-old, and compare them, the chances of the 35-year-old knowing more are pretty high, but it isn't absolutely 100% throughout every single instance. So he automatically assumed that he was already an intellectual superior, and he was just digging himself in a deeper hole. And he was just showing me exactly how far people are willing to go to defend their completely unwarranted and I'd have to say, idiotic beliefs.
Yep, exactly. But are there any points in particular we want to touch upon?
So, pretty much. There's a few of the main claims in the video that he made that are rather interesting, and I think we're going to make a video anyways involving the idea of Islamic indoctrination, but now we have something personal. So now
we have a very big reason.
Now we have someone close to home to base this off of. So he said he goes in and he claims, or he's filming himself on his iPhone, or I don't even really know, nor do I care, but he is filming himself and he says, they cannot teach religion in schools. He claims it's against the law, and it's against the separation of religion and state. That's what he called it. I kid you not. He assumes that's actually a thing.
How can you argue on something that you don't even know the name of?
Yes, if you don't even know the name, and I get mistakes, but this is just, come on.
He said it he even revised it after he had said it, and it was still wrong.
He flipped it. He tried to re-say it or something, and then he called it the Separation of State and Religion Act. I try not to belittle people too much as far as just being derogatory senselessly, but this is unexcusable. But okay, he's referring to separation of church and state. He's referring to the proposition made by Thomas Jefferson involving that the legislature cannot pass any laws in favor or against any kind of religion. That's what it is. It's defending freedom of religion. It has nothing to do with what's taught in school. So,
and then he goes to say that the curriculum has to be approved by parents.
Right, as if like the parents, and as much I will agree with him on this. The parents do have a right to know exactly what is being taught to their kids. They do. I agree. And if you don't want what it is to be taught to them, then you take them out of free education, you take them out of the public school, and you go and put them in a private school that your stupid ass pays for if you want them to learn one specific thing. Put them in a Christian school if that's what you really want so bad. That's the thing when it comes about education as free as it is, free education for, kindergarten to 12th, that's something you have to trade off on. And even then, there's not even really a problem anyways. He just doesn't like Islam.
Which is becoming quite common
of course.
Among the hyper-religious, incredibly rednecky people.
That kind of leans more towards another claim he makes about this being a Christian nation. And let me reiterate that because I've heard this multiple times. What a Christian nation means is they're saying that we're built off Christian principles and that we are, we make specific laws and we function off of a Christian standard, which is completely wrong. First of all, when the conception of the U.S. actually happened and when it became the United States of America, it was one of the most secular country in comparison to all of that because it was different. Secularism was something that wasn't tried yet, and the founding fathers in particular understood the problems that are the complications that come with invoking government and religion. When you bring them into one another, they have problems. So they came to form a government, and then they based it off of secularism. So when they did so, it worked really well. So that's the thing. He calls it a Christian nation as much as, yes, the U.S. is predominantly religious, with some denomination of Christianity, but that doesn't mean that the population and whether or not they're religious has anything to do with how it runs. As far as, Constitution and such. I would agree that there are certain states, and Tennessee being one of them, that lean more towards Christian religiosity and since it's so common, they promote it as true in a way. For example, in Tennessee, you can't hold any public office if you're an atheist. So you have to basically acknowledge the existence of God to hold public office. So that's just one example. But it's not like a Christian nation as in, everything works primarily within Christian standards. So that's wrong. But, that's just one of the few wrong things that he said. And he said the curriculum is meant to be approved by the parents. And I would agree, like I said, but it's not like they send you a checklist of things you want your kid to be taught, because that's just not how public school works. And I don't know. And there's no opposition towards any other religion. Like, they brush up basically on some forms of Mesopotamian paganism or polytheism, but they really mainly they focus on Judaism, Christianity, or the Abrahamic religions, and Hinduism and Buddhism. That's what they focus on. And he has no opposition towards any of those except Islam.
He specifically mentions Islam, and he uses a worksheet to provide a reference point, but the worksheet itself contradicts itself and completely collapses his argument because it shows that they talk about other religions and how Islam is compared to those religions. Yeah,
it's basically it's the comparative religious studies. That's what it is. That's what they're doing. They're following the curriculum. And when you're very, how would I say this? You are intellectually defective is what I would call these people. And when you're willfully ignorant to this degree, when they hear Islam, they automatically assume terrorism, and they also, when they hear Islam being taught in school, they automatically assume that they're rolling out the prayer mats, like you said, and they're it's having some Muslim guy come in and he's just, has a long beard and shit, talking about how 9/11 was good and praise Allah and that kinds of stupid shit. That's what they believe. They believe that's basically what's happening. They're sitting there telling the kids, all right, Islam is true. I know we taught these other ones, but Islam is the right one, which is not what they do.
Yeah, they're basically pretending like when teachers are sitting there saying, hey, look at all of these really cool religions and how they made our today, and they start listing them off. They're like, here's Christianity, Judaism, and, Islam, Islam. Like, the real one, you know what I'm saying?
Say it with me, kids. Allahu Akbar. There we go.
It just
all right.
boggles my mind.
For the next lesson, we will learn to make a series of chest bombs.
Now remember, you can't practice suicide bombing.
Right.
But no, it wouldn't be that bad if when we brought up the fact that he was completely wrong, they actually were to have talked to us from an equal ground and tried to have a conversation. But no, they wanted to be, I would dare say, one-sided and completely belligerent.
That's the point of having unfounded beliefs. The point is that they found their belief system more off of social interactions and emotion. So those are really strong, and they basically, it's almost like a set of concrete when it comes down to it. And it just, they have their beliefs under that said concrete in particular. And there's just no way you're going to possibly show them that their beliefs might be completely false. Like, honestly, and I know that this isn't really common, unfortunately, but I want my beliefs to be as warranted as possible and to be as close to the truth as possible. Which is why being wrong is a beautiful thing. Because when you're wrong about something, I actually say, if I'm ever wrong about anything, I want all the people, my peers and all the people around me, to show me why I'm wrong. And say, hey, here's the evidence. Here's why what you said is wrong. Here's what's true. That's what I want. And I would think...
And then you say, oh, fuck, let me research this and come to a conclusion with this newfound information.
Yeah, and what they do is you have to be willing to change your beliefs given a sufficient amount of evidence. That shows intelligence, is when you say every belief that you may have dear to you and you see something that contradicts your belief system, but of course there's more evidence for that claim or that opposing side in particular, and then you realize that yours isn't founded properly, then it reflects only intelligence to say, all right, that is the more reasonable position to hold, and that is more concordant with reality. So that's how that works. But of course...
But nope, rather than do that, they decided to pull the whole, you're a kid, you need to wake up type of card, you're a slave to the system, just random shit that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, senseless ad hominem attacks. And I'm not saying I'm never, responsible, or I'm never to blame for some ad hominem attacks, but the difference between mine is that when I use a derogatory word, I can demonstrate why that word applies to you. It's not just saying, oh, you're a stupid asshole, or when his wife called us dumbasses.
Yeah.
It's just...
I don't understand. I mean, you sit here talking about how the fact that you're grown and you know more, yet you can't talk to two people younger than you from a sense of actual civility.
Yeah, it's just, the point is like, the whole point of age is just senseless. It's like, all right, cool. You've been indoctrinated and you've been lied to longer than me. Great. All right, cool. You got me on that one. And it's just, and then when AJ comes into it, and I really liked AJ. Like, when I was in school with him, he was really fun to be around, and he did a lot of dumb things, but he seemed to have that something that he was able to be smart about certain things.
He thought for himself.
Yeah, he did for a while. I don't know what happened, but when I stopped going to school and started doing online school, he changed. He changed rather dramatically, and I was able to find this out through the conversation we had. So he was defending his father, and he was saying that kids being taught religions at that young age in middle school, they don't have the comprehensive ability to understand the religion or what they're teaching. And that I'd have to say is completely not true at all. I would have to...
I would disagree with that in full, to be honest.
Completely disagree with that. And because not to speak too anecdotally, but I took this curriculum in particular, and I had no struggle with it whatsoever. And never once did I say, oh, shit, fucking Islam, man. It's true. It's fucking true, man. Jesus, they're right. It's a lie. 9/11, Jesus. No Jesus,
yeah, I
Muhammad.
Go home and fucking slap the pork sandwich out of my dad's hand.
Start learning Arabic, you know. And it's not, and never once did that come across my mind. I learned exactly how ancient civilizations functioned. I learned how governments were formed. I learned how governments failed. I learned all kinds of magnificent stuff about human history when being taught the different kinds of religions, and that in particular. None of which were ever professed to me as true, ever. Actually, they went so far out of their way to acknowledge that they're not saying any of them are true. They're just demonstrating the basic foundational principles of those religions, such as the 5 pillars of Islam. If I'm correct, I actually saw that on the worksheet that they refer to.
Yeah, they did. Bring
which
it up.
is just, it's not, it's there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's, I don't understand. I really don't understand. And first of all, that's one of the Abrahamic religions, which if you are a Christian, then you would like, I would say, putting some kind of research into the other religions, especially Judaism, in which your religion is founded off of. I would say it's reasonable because they all worship the same God. Now, of course, that God wants different things and has different, or at least has a different prophet. It's still the same God. So maybe you can learn more about where your religion comes from and whether or not it's true. That's where comparative religion comes in. So they can, just in case they might want to convert, they can do it reasonably because they have basic knowledge and whatever it is. Which I don't see a problem with. Here's the deal. Even if your kid became a Muslim, what's the problem with it? I don't get the issue.
You see, the problem isn't even that. The problem is whenever you have a kid and you're constantly forcing them to believe that the religion that you're a part of is the only religion and you don't allow them to think for themselves. So you create this kid that has this one-sided ideology and it's shitty and awful.
That's the problem with indoctrination. And that's something that's so common nowadays with parenting methods. They basically teach their kids to be many representations of them. They say, all right, here's everything I did with my life. I want you to do the same thing because what I did was right and I learned properly and I know best. You know, the whole thing, mommy knows best. Yeah, that kind of shit. So basically they're just, especially when it comes to religion, because they teach them at such a young age, such a young and impressionable age, that this religion is true, and they take them to church and they, sit them down and they make them they make them sing and praise Jesus and stuff they can't possibly comprehend. And that's what Richard Dawkins actually says something rather fascinating. He says, there is no such thing as Christian children. There's no such thing as Muslim children. And there's no such thing as, Jewish children. There are just children of either Christian, Muslim, or Jewish parents. So that's exactly what it is, because they don't have the comprehensive capability at that young of an age to perceive whether or not it's true or whether or not it's reasonable, especially if they're not even taught reason. So
exactly, and when you do that, and
no, you're good. Go on. I've talked too much.
Well, whenever you do that and you basically force your beliefs upon them, you're removing the ability for them to think for themselves, and you're just creating someone who doesn't know how to critically think. And that fucks up their life completely.
It does, because and of course they don't see it that way because they want them to do exactly what they've done. They want the whole point, or the something that most parents want their kids to do is follow within their footsteps. That's something they love their kids to do. So, and then they build like family traditions, and they all stay within the same realm of thinking, and that's just not a good way to raise an independent person. Because it isn't you. It's a different person. And you have to teach them the capabilities, and you have to give them the tools that they need to assess the world and to perceive it properly, reasonably, rationally, and with basic, concepts of logic. When you teach them that, then they can base their own decisions off of reason in particular, and they can be their own person instead of being a drone.
Which you don't want your kid to
No.
be. You want your kid to grow up to be their own person.
Right. It's like,
and
yeah,
you
go on.
just need to facilitate a calm, safe environment for them to grow into the person that they want to be.
And that's true, but I don't think the parents want their kid to be somebody they want to be. I think their parents want them to be what the parents want them to be. If that makes sense.
Yes, because a lot of parents don't realize that I'm sure it was, this is completely weird and off topic, but as comedian Louis C.K. said, you're not raising the child in front of you, you're raising the person that child's going to be. And if you're trying to make that child be the same type of person that you are, then you're just not being fair to them. You're not letting them grow out to their full potential.
Right, and they don't understand exactly what happens when you teach your kid specific things and you show them that they're absolutely true. It's like, also, Richard Dawkins makes a fabulous, I don't mean to consistently allude to him. I mean, I actually think he's kind of an asshole, but he says a lot of smart shit. But
as long as it's valid,
it's valid. So, like, one thing he also said is that it wouldn't be reasonable for parents to sit their kids down and teach their kids to be either Republicans or Democrats. That wouldn't be reasonable at all. Any parent would say, "Oh, they can't understand that." So, what makes the parents think that they can understand religion in particular when it has just as much complication, if not more so?
Exactly.
So the problem lies with, it's a double standard, and they're parenting more within social norms more so than what's actually effective for making an independent, free-thinking, person that strives towards free inquiry and just an intelligent human. That's just you're lacking you're not even really trying to do that. And that's kind of and we've kind of went a little bit off topic, but I think we touched up a little bit more on what I wanted to talk about, really. So, which is good. So, but the Tommy, and I think I see Tommy doing that. I really see him as that kind of parent, which is probably one of the main reasons why AJ changed a little bit, because he seemed to have been different. Go on. No, you're good. That's relevant.
I know that they don't want us making this video, which I don't know. I feel like we really need to, because this is an important topic that is not only happening in this instance, but all across this nation and in other nations even.
Right. Yeah, there's a whole group of parents that are against something they don't understand. And that they're against is only Islam being taught in school when they don't understand the concepts behind it. They don't understand why they oppose it. They just oppose it because it's Islam. It's just that there's no reason. So anything that is without reason, I try to challenge, and I try to possibly convey some form of reason in which they can apply to make their beliefs reasonable. So, because really that's just the problem here. And that's and the claims about it being illegal, and it's not. Tennessee has lawfully allowed religion being taught in school under specific circumstances.
Now, there was a bill. There was a bill that was proposed that did not, in fact, become a law.
Not yet. It could be.
And they brought it up in the whole little conversation we were having.
I use conversation lightly.
Yes, but Christian, in fact, asked them whether or not it had became a law, and they would not answer. Probably because themselves did not know. And yes, I said themselves. Suck my dick.
Our fantastic Tennessee representative, Sheila Butt, that is her name, I kid you not. Sheila Butt proposed the idea of not teaching any, which honestly is, okay, all right. If it happens, I mean, so what? But not teaching any religion until high school, which is been proposed as a bill and has not gone through legislature enough to be actually brought into as a law. So that means that they don't have to abide by it. All it is a proposition. That's the point of representatives. They can propose certain things and then possibly get certain votes and then eventually pass them as laws. And it hasn't been passed as one yet, so they didn't understand the difference between a bill and a law. So, and I don't think it will get passed. I don't think, because the actual people who oppose the bill in particular have a reasonable standpoint in which I hope that when it goes more through the legislature in particular, that the people who make the decision of whether or not it is, or who do the voting, will like see the rational, reasonable arguments and appeal to them more so. I hope so. But if not, I mean, so what? That would be the same problem as atheists not being able to be or hold public office, and that would just show the incompetence of Tennessee as a southern state.
Well, what are you supposed to do when there's still people thinking that atheist means that you're satanic and that you worship the devil?
Yeah, it really.
It's not a problem about you being non-Christian. It's a problem with them wanting nothing to do with the thing they don't like. Them not wanting to actually research the thing they're fighting.
It's such a common mentality, and these people, the whole family, really, everybody in the whole family we had the conversation about, and not even just them. Like, it's so common to think this way: to oppose things you've been told to oppose, not to oppose things that you actually understand, and because that's how you oppose something properly. When you don't agree with something, you need to read about it and see why you don't agree with it, and then develop your position based off of the research, which is just doesn't happen anymore. At least not through them. Basically, I bet somebody in their church was like, our kids are being taught that Islam and praising Allah, blah, 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 blah. And then the guy was like, yeah, right, that's crazy. I'm going to go to the Rutherford County Board of Education Center and make a fool of myself.
But yeah, you know what? We're going to go this far as to mention the weird message that very vaguely came whenever you alerted AJ of this video and the pondering of its creation.
I, of course, disclosed to them, and this may, in a sense, be kind of provocative, but it's something that I wanted to talk about anyway, so it fits in perfectly. So, I sent him a message saying, all right, here's the deal. We got all the videos. We recorded them. And considering they were public to begin with, and he said he was smearing it all over social media anyway, so all right, we got it. It worked, kind of.
It's been smeared
except not in your favor. I mean, it's definitely not in your favor. But when it comes to, I said that we're going to have videos, and we're going to make a video involving Islamic indoctrination. And then, of course, he sent a rather elaborate message,
quote unquote,
in which I will attempt to read. I'm going to say that
verbatim. He's going to read it to you verbatim.
All right, so he sent me a message, and the reason why I'm referring to this message is because I find it rather it's almost in a way kind of threatening, at least in a sense. So basically, what he said to me, I told him that of course we're making a video on it, and I'm mentioning it to him beforehand, so they at least know that I've reached out to tell them that we're going to make a video constructively criticizing their stupidity. So, and he responded with, yeah, not very smart idea. My father is bipolar, and you really go out and do that. I really can't stop what he would do, which really is questionable to me. And then after that, he says, see, it was my fault for sharing the video and letting you two get major butt hurt over it. So if you really want a 39-year-old man bitching because two kids think they know better than him, who, parentheses, hint, 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 in parentheses, doesn't like children who think they're smart as fuck and don't know shit to save their ass, so why don't you just drop the whole thing before you start something stupid? So I am referring to that in particular because I don't know exactly what they mean by start something stupid. I'm assuming that knowing exactly how they handle confrontation, that they might be alluding to the possibility of causing some kind of actual altercation, very possibly a public one. I wouldn't say a legal one because the guy doesn't know anything about how the law works. So,
of course, naturally being the people we are, after him saying, hey, you shouldn't make that video, we were like, dude, let's make that video.
Yeah, we were kind of,
it was going to happen regardless of them being included.
It was going to happen either way. So then we decided, and we have this material in which is closer to home, in which we can address a personal issue, and we can also address what we wanted to talk about. So it works perfectly, and it's so we used it, and I have no regrets. I don't really care. It's I feel that of course they have the freedom to express their beliefs and what they want, and I have the freedom to constructively criticize their unwarranted and like logically absent belief system. So, and that's what we will do. So
That's exactly. Sorry.
I don't even fucking know anymore. Just go on.
Basically, the thing that I wanted to real quick is, if you're going to tell us that we shouldn't be doing something, do you think that's going to make us not want to do it? I don't understand.
They don't want us. They don't want us to talk about it.
Is it because they know that we have the correct stance in this situation?
And it's just that's the problem too, is that they just wouldn't. No matter how much we were. At least I was, majority of the time, I was trying to be reasonable. I'm not saying you weren't, Jake, but...
Okay, I couldn't be reasonable because these are the same people who got in a fist fight in front of my house.
It's just... it's in Tennessee, there's a kind of demographic of people in which you should be prepared to be around, and these are those people. So, and the issue is that they take ridicule so personally. And I wouldn't say it would be wrong not to, but the way they do it is just, they're taking it as if I'm trying to, like, make them feel bad about themselves. And, I mean, I want you to reflect on your stupid actions and maybe change them. But I guess they can't take it that way. Because if any idea or claim that is made and you constructively criticize it reasonably, of course, to people who probably don't understand reason, it just comes off as, hey, you stupid fucking faggot piece of shit. Yeah, I'm gonna beat your ass. That's pretty much all I hear. So they plug their ears for the facts and they wait for the insults, and then they, go on from there. So that's what happened here, and I find it just upsetting that somebody who's an adult acted in this way and wouldn't accept the possibility of just being wrong.
Yeah, and this grown-ass man actually went through the trouble of going on to Christian's Facebook page and looking up personal things on him to try to, I don't know, demoralize you all during
Which I'm
this.
not about to complain about, because I looked at his Facebook page and laughed about all the stupid shit he shares, but I'm not going to say that I didn't do that too, but I didn't use it against him. I didn't say, fucking big trucks and 3 stupid kids don't like no ignorance. I don't really know. But no, it's I don't know. But he actually went, because I train at an MMA gym in the area, and he actually went on my Facebook page to look at that. And honestly, I think I don't really know how to handle this, and I still to this day question exactly what the fuck this means. But he told me MMA don't like no ignorance, and I'm like, what? I read that and I was like, wait, what does that mean? I don't get it.
I actually had to stop my thought process to think about
MMA
this.
is not a sentient thing that thinks. It doesn't like things. It's not a person who is capable of thought. It's something you go and do. It's an extracurricular activity. It is no, I don't get it. It's not gonna. I think honestly, and this is my proposition, or at least what I've tried to form based off of that. I think what he's saying is people who train in MMA shouldn't be ignorant. That's what I thought I heard, or at least what I.
Yeah, that's the conclusion I pulled from it.
Which is so completely irrelevant to what he said, and was really hard to form, and I had to put in a lot of extra words. So, no, it's not true. People who are trained in MMA can be stupid too. It's not that has nothing to do. MMA is not like a course of logic, reason, and politics and science, in which you sit you down and they hold, some mitts or some pads for you to use, and then they're like, all right, who's the president? All right, 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, what's the atomic mass of this element? 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, how do you reasonably come to a reasonable conclusion for any claim in particular? 1, 2, 1, 2. That's not how fucking works. Come on, man. Give me a break. Give me the, oh shit, man, I don't know. I can't think of a random. Maybe they have questions on a chalkboard in calculus and you have to answer them do some.
While doing push-ups.
Right, you have to get choked out, and then when you wake up, you have to come up with the answer or something. That's just not how it is, and it's just silly to think that. So, again, he also, I think was really great, which is a cop-out. It's a form of logical tiptoeing, or illogical tiptoeing, is where basically they'll go, ooh, there's this weird factual evidentiary, this logic stuff that I don't understand, so I'm gonna and what he used that, or how he did so, was we need to wake up, and Did he call us clones or no? He called us slaves to the system or something.
I think.
He called us slaves to the system. Like that's
to which you wittily retorted, "Oh, I forgot my tinfoil hat."
It was reasonable, okay? I've had people tell me some really dumb, really crazy things and that's also goes back to the premise in which you basically, these people, they make a claim, and the claim contains the premise, the conclusion, the supporting details, and the evidence in its own. It contains all of that within its own claim. So that's pretty much, you don't need any other stuff when you have a claim. So they just sit there and make it, and they don't realize that when you make a claim, you have a burden of proof you have to meet. So when I sit there and say, all right, bud, I realize you think that, but where's the evidence? Give me some reasonable discourse. Just give me something. And then they go, but you're just a clone. You're a fucking slave to the system. So that's where it is. That's the problem here. And that's when you realize that you can't have a logical conversation, and you're just admitting just intellectual defeat. You're committing intellectual suicide. That's what it is.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I think this might need to start coming to a conclusion.
Hey, it's funny. I was just thinking about that. So,
yeah.
this is a good one.
In closing, if you're going to argue about something, please, for the love of God, figure out what it is first.
Right, yeah.
And then don't get pissy because someone won't meet with you when you have no idea what you're talking about.
Right, and then it's just, people who think rationally aren't just going to accept what you say, especially in a conversation involving that topic. They're going to want some evidence. They're going to want some kind of reasonable argument to be made. And then I'm sure they're going to say, oh, well, I don't have to prove myself to you, blah, 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 blah. Well, when you say something dumb and I question that particular stupidity in particular, when I question it and I try to find some kind of reason and there isn't any, then I'll criticize it. I'm sorry. That's just how it works.
Exactly.
Silly ideas require ridicule.
Yes. Are we going to be providing the screenshots of the conversation and the actual video itself?
Maybe.
That's what I wanted.
I think we should. I think it'd be reasonable to do so.
Okay. Well, then I think we've touched all the topics, and we might need to leave it here.
That's good. We're gonna leave it here.
Okay. Well, I guess that concludes.
Well, I really want to say, like, if you listen to this, then please like and subscribe. But then I realize that no one gives a shit about anything we do, so I'd be talking for. I'd be wasting my life. But maybe we might get a friend or two who will go, okay, I'll like it and subscribe to be nice. Which, okay, all right. So yeah, that wraps up what we're talking about now as far as Islamic indoctrination, and that's it. That's all I have to say. I don't have anything else.
And goodbye.